Call the June 5th, 2017 Broken Arrow City Council meeting to order. We have invocation, Pastor Rich Manganero.
Our heads for a word of prayer. Proverbs 4:7 says, "Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with it get understanding." O God, creator of all things, we pray that your will be done in Broken Arrow. We pray that your wisdom prevail in all our decisions, and that your peace would be our guide. We ask that more unity be established for our city councilors and strength, and that our great city would prosper in every way. We commit this meeting into your hands. We ask these things in the name that is above all names. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, roll call, please.
Wimpy?
Here.
Parks?
Here.
Lester?
Here.
Udi?
Here.
Thurman?
Here. Please stand and join Councilman Parks in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 5 is the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed?
move for approval of the consent agenda. Second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Wimpy?
Yes.
Parks?
Yes.
Lester?
Yes.
Udi?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes. Okay, item 7, hearings, appeals, presentation, recognitions, and awards. Going to conduct a public hearing for the proposed 2017-2018 fiscal year budget. Mr. Spurgeon.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of Council, good evening tonight. I have a short presentation I'd like to give to the council members for the benefit of the governing body for the second time, as well as for those in attendance. And equally as important is all those folks that will watch this on cable channel 24 in Cox or may view it on our website. Here we go. Tonight for public hearing, the City Council has on the agenda the proposed budget for fiscal year 2018. The proposed budget is for all of our funds, more specifically for the general fund and for BAMA. Tonight's presentation is I am going to touch on 5 areas. The first will be a budget overview for the general fund and for BAMA, and then I will briefly outline the fiscal year work plans. I will mention for the council and the public some other actions and budget considerations, and then I will list the proposed utility rate increases based on the Black and Veatch model that the council accepted and approved last year, and just mention a couple of items for future considerations. First thing I'd like to mention is that there are 2 main documents that council has access to regarding the budget. The first is the budget document itself, which is the book that has all of the proposed budgets, all of the proposed fund balances, and it also outlines, where we have been with respect to previous year's budget. And the second is the budget message from my office, which is about a 19 or 20 page document that covers the highlights of the proposed financial plan for the upcoming fiscal year. First item will be the budget overview. I always like to start with this because in a community our size, I think it's important that the public understand exactly the magnitude of what our finance department, the administration, and more importantly, the city council is responsible for. And first is the fact that we have, next slide please, we have 27 funds which the city is responsible for. And those funds are our general fund. We have 3 enterprise funds, 4 capital improvement funds. We have a debt service fund, 2 internal service funds, and 16 special revenue funds. That these are the different buckets that all the money received have to go into. And so it's a monumental task to have a finance staff that's able to make sure the debits and credits, the expenditures are applied to the appropriate accounts when the amount of money we're talking about of taxpayers' money for our proposed budget. For FY 2018, the proposed budget is $248,413,381. The proposed budget is structurally sound and continues our commitment to maintain the high-quality public and utility services the Broken Arrow community has come to expect. I always like to start off and mention exactly what the total budget is, and I'll be more specific about the general fund and the BAMA in just a minute. But when you look at exactly what we're talking about as it relates to operations and capital, the Broken Arrow's budget this year, and it's primarily as a result of the capital improvement program, is just about $1.5 million less than $250 million. And I think that is obviously, that's a lot of money to be accounted for, but also demonstrates the type of commitment and responsibilities that the governing body administration have to the public and how we spend our tax dollars. That's why I believe transparency is extremely important when you're talking about this kind of money. Now, there is an increase that's being proposed for the current fiscal year, and that increase, expenditures are 31% higher than last year, and the reasons for that, I mean, that sounds like a very large figure, but certainly when I explain this, I think it will be very understandable. Next slide, please. The reasons for the increase, there's really just a couple. Operation expenses are up about 7.4% over the previous year. The largest increases is what's creating the 31% increase is the fact that we are going to be completing an additional $49 million in capital projects. As you can see here, there's an increase in the capital improvement program due to anticipated sale of almost $18.5 million of general obligation bonds that the voters were approved. Just for your recollection and for the public's more importantly, is that the voters approved around $65 million in 2014. And obviously, to keep our tax structure for property taxes at a certain level, the city can only sell so many millions of dollars worth of bonds every year to stay right around that 18 mills that the council has set a policy on. And so really that means we can only sell, it takes about 4, sometimes 5 years to sell that amount of bonds. This year, because we've had some capacity in the increase in our assessed valuation, we're going to be able to sell $18.435 million of those bonds, which will leave us with less than $10 million that we'll have to issue next year. I think it may be closer to 9, to basically to sell all of the bonds for the 2014 general bond obligation that the voters approved. And that's the first step in completing the projects that the public has approved, is actually selling the bonds. In our utilities, our BAMA, we're budgeting an additional $30,103,000 for utility projects. These projects are going to be financed through what is known as the acronym, the OWRB, which is the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. We have found over the years that the Oklahoma Water Resources Board is the most appropriate and most effective way of issuing debt to complete the major capital improvement projects that we have to complete in our city. The interest rates are always very good. They have a number of very flexible programs, like we use, for example, with the new water treatment plant, to where you get the budget approved, and then they only lend you what you need at the time, as, for example, the development of plans and specifications, acquisition, and therefore you can model your debt service based on only what you have borrowed, or you can pay interest until then. And so there are other options. However, I think it's probably the most effective, and we're also supporting the state of Oklahoma. Budgeted expenditure carryovers for projects, that's something that we really want to focus on this year, is we're going to be carrying over $1.6 million projects, and we shared those with council 2 weeks ago. A breakdown on the fiscal year 2018 expenses specifically is the operational cost, and this is basically paying employees' salaries, putting gas in the vehicles, buying pens, papers, paying the electric bill and the gas bill and so forth. Total $108,298,702. This is an increase of $7.5 million, or the 7.47%. Our capital outlay this year is almost $114 million. Once again, that's a very significant increase based on the 2 major items that I mentioned previously. And obviously, we have a debt service account of $26,229,100, which is an increase of a little over $1 million. The city borrows money for, whether it to be for pay for projects in BAMA, or we borrow money that the voters, on projects the voters have approved, and then we have to generate property taxes or utility rates to generate enough debt service to pay for those projects, because the cost of those projects, many of them, and we cannot pay for on a pay-as-you-go plan. And with regard to the general fund, and the general fund basically covers the services that citizens touch and feel the most. The police and fire, our parks, recreation, code enforcement, inspections, general administration, finance, legal, etc. The proposed general fund for the upcoming fiscal year is $72,176,400, and this is an increase of $711,000, or right at 1% over what was approved for last year. So as you can see, there was a great deal of time, as the council is aware, spending looking at what we've spent over the last three averages, and the director is really defending their requests for spending, and we've adjusted the accounts accordingly to keep the increase that we are seeing here really to mainly just the increase in cost of personnel and slight operational costs. But over last year, 1%, it's outstanding. Question we get asked a lot is, where does the city get its general fund money? This right here for FY 2018 is the proverbial pie chart that demonstrates to the community where we get the $72.6 million. And as you can see, sales tax is the largest contributor in terms of revenue that is generated, that we collect, I should say, to pay for services. Then you've got your other expenses, transfers, charges for services, for example, like Life Ride. And then there's also some very smaller revenues that receive, for example, fines and forfeitures, so forth. But that is a $72 million that finance is anticipating that we're going to receive based on their projections and looking at the history and what we've collected for the previous year we're about to end. And this is the breakdown of how the city spends the money. So as you can see, we're proposing to spend slightly less than what we're taking in. And our largest expense, obviously, and should be, is our public safety for police and fire services. We also spend money on general government, which is a whole host of different services, such as general administration, code enforcement, legal, city clerk's office, and so forth. Then we have parks, public safety. So you can see that's exactly the pie chart, and all this information is available to the public on our website. The next time I wanted to mention, because this is something that needs to be just a reoccurring discussion for the next few years, is the fact that as a result of the voters approving the repurposing of the Vision 2025 sales tax back in November of 2015, is that as a part of that, the City Council passed an ordinance that mandates that the city place a portion of all the revenues that we receive in a fund for the police department and a fund for the fire. I think that's important because the public needs to know is that every year we are setting aside for police specifically 36.7% of our revenues that we receive, and that's the amount that we're looking at for this year. And then fire, 30.7%, right a little less than 31%. And those funds have been pulled out of the general fund itself to create their own funds. And from those funds, we pay for the operations from those two respective departments. Now, the council knows, and the public should be made aware, is that the voters approved the repurposing of that tax specifically to hire 20 new police officers over a 4 to 5 period and 20 new firefighters over that same period. And so those funds that are being generated from the sales tax they're going into the fund. They are not for just paying for the cost of the department. They are to pay for the salaries of those officers or firefighters respectively that the voters approved. And so what we have to do is every year as we look at our revenues and as whatever growth there is, we have to make sure that we put 37.7 and 30.7 respectively in those funds to pay for the salary increases, the wages, and the operating expenses for the existing officers, as well as the operating expenses for the department itself. And so it's something we really have to manage because, I want to make sure that we have sufficient revenues in those funds to last us, for the next 6 to 8 years. And we have to take into account the fact that we do try to offer step increases. We also have to do collective bargaining, and those grow exponentially whenever we give those increases. So those have to be taken into consideration. With respect to our Municipal Utility Authority, affectionately known as BAMA, this year for FY 2018, we're projecting total revenues, and that is from our water, sewer, stormwater, miscellaneous fees, taking in $95,714,791, and our proposed expenditures total $94,344,800. Now, we are slightly below expenses versus revenues, And as the council members know, is that 95.7 number is dependent upon looking at the history, and obviously, if in fact we don't have the water sales and the corresponding sewer sales, then we will have to adjust the budget accordingly. And that's why I like the fact that we are about $1.3 million under what we anticipate receiving. If we end up being under, any revenues that we receive over what the operating expenses are going to be left in the account, the BAMA account, to help us build that 90-day fund balance policy that the council will be adopting sometime this year, to make sure that we have adequate reserves to cover anything that's unforeseen or extraordinary. And I would like to point out that if, on the budget book, if anybody wants to follow along, is that the financial plan starts on page 54 and runs through page 102. The reason for the budget increase that we're having this year for BAMA, really the $30,103,000 for capital, and then also the additional personnel, as well as operating expenses, make up the $32 million increase that we're seeing over last year. So once again, this year, and I think for the next few years, we're going to be very capital heavy driven until we lock in all of these projects being under construction. And according to the information Mr. Schwab has provided us, is that for the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to be really locked in with wastewater treatment plant updates, the replacement of large mains to our sewer plants, expansion of the water plant to accommodate growth. And so it isn't going to stop anytime soon, because as soon as we get these projects completed, we're already starting to have conversations about our water system and where we need to be 50 years, 40, 50 years from now, to make sure that we can accommodate that growth. And then we'll be looking at the next round of capital improvements that we'll have to consider to make sure that we can maintain and we can grow our system. The two top challenges for BAMA, as I just mentioned, is the implementation of the long-term water and sewer capital needs. And something that's the council is adamant about is that we need to work towards establishing a 90-day reserve fund balance to make sure that we can pay the bills in case we have a wet summer, for example, or something extraordinary happens. If we have a collapse in a major collector line that is unanticipated, because as you know, some of our lines are 40 or 50 years old, and we had a couple of those last year. Something important that I always like to mention is personnel services. Our biggest resource and largest expense is always our personnel. Based on the plan for this year, next slide please, looking at where we are with our revenue growth and basically some adjustments that we made in our operating expenses, I'm recommending to council that we add 27 new positions this year. And I'm pleased to tell you that of those 27 positions, there is only one additional leadership position and one professional project engineer, and the remaining other 25 positions are either public safety, administrative, or service workers. So basically, these are going to be the proverbial boots on the ground. They're going to be out there working for the citizens, whether it's just working on a water line, sewer line, two additional people in the parks. Also, 5 additional police officers. We've always secured the funding to put our 20 firefighters on board. And so these aren't individuals that are going to be working in a leadership position, because I think other than this position, there's only one more that we may need in the future. Otherwise, I think we're in real good shape. More specifically, I'm recommending council add 10 new positions within the general fund, which makes up this, once again, the services the citizens basically see every day. And what I've done is I provided to you a breakdown of those positions, which is 2 in the streets, 2 in the parks, 2 in development services, 1 in information technologies, 1 in municipal clerk, 1 in city manager, and then CVB. Now, I will tell you is that every year I get more requests than this. And believe me, I have to go through the painstaking process of making very difficult decisions, because quite frankly, I would like to approve every single request if they can be justified. But when I look at the funding available, what I did was every single department here asked me for more than I am recommending to you. And what I do is I ask the directors, what are your priorities? And then based on their priorities, I make those decisions based on the priorities or my observations. In this case, I think I took all of the director's number 1 or number 2 priorities. And so those that did not get approved next year, what I'll do is I'll tell the directors to come back to me next year and provide the additional documentation, because quite frankly, just because you tell me you need it isn't good enough justification for me. You need to provide me data. If we need additional help or capacity, for example, I've been saying for almost 2 years now, engineering construction needs additional project managers. We can't expect them to manage $150 or $200 million worth of projects if we don't have enough people to manage those projects. And the council has been gracious enough to support that. So it's the same thing, whether it's an administrative position or it is a position that's in streets and stormwater. If I have adequate justification, I will gladly bring it to the council for their consideration. With respect to police and fire, we are going to be, I'm proud to say, is that we're going to be adding the second round of 5 police officers through Chief Boggs' leadership. We were able to get the first 5, and we're going to add 5 more, and also an animal control officer and a call taker for dispatch is very important to him and to me as well. And I'm also very pleased to announce that through Chief Moore's efforts, as we've secured $2.7 million approximately through 2 grants, and this coming month on the 23rd, the council will have met your commitment to the public to hire 20 new firefighters, and you will actually have done it well in advance of the 4 to 5 years that you said it would take. So we will be putting those new individuals on the shifts the following Monday, and we will be moving forward with letting the public know that we have met that obligation. I'm very excited, very excited about that. The one thing I do want to point out is that the public needs to know this, is that when it comes to police and fire, basically 88.3% of the police budget is made up of personnel costs. So they're heavily laden on personnel. And then for the fire department, it's about 92%. And honestly, that's where the money should be. We need to make sure we provide great technology. We need to make sure we provide great vehicles, but mainly we need the personnel. And so you can see is that anytime we give increases, there is an effect on that cost. So we have to, make sure that we're watching that fund closely. With respect to BAMA, proposing 11 new positions, which I believe are desperately needed: general service 2, stormwater utilities, sewer utilities, and engineering construction. Once again, these are workers that are going to be out working on stormwater, concrete, managing projects. We're also going to be implementing a customer service initiative to help with our solid waste department. So these are all very functional positions that I believe the respective departments need. Moving on to the capital improvement program, which is 0.5% of the 3.55 municipal tax. That is for pay-as-you-go capital or larger capital improvement items. We collect about $7.1 million a year for projects. This year, with the rollover through this STCI, as it's affectionately called, we're going to spend about $8.8 million. This includes project carried over from fiscal year 2017. The projected fund balance is right now looking at $4.3 million. Now, a couple things. About $900,000 of that has to be reserved for debt service, which means that the city council has available to it, about $3.4, $3.5 million should there be something that happens in case we have an emergency. If there's something the council wants done throughout the year that's not approved as a part of the budget, we have 2 choices. Number one, we could take it out of the fund balance, or secondly, is that you could tell me how much that is. The council could collectively say you want it done, and then we would reprioritize the projects. And my recommendation always to the council, if it's not an emergency, is that we look to reprioritize projects. Because this right here is, if something catastrophic would happen to any of our infrastructure, this is where we would have to go to get that fund. And so I'm very protective of this, and I want to make sure that we keep a large fund balance to fund any capital projects, because nothing's cheap. Everything's traffic signals $275,000. So if we have to fix something, a collapsed bridge, this is where this would come from, or any other major capital improvement. So I know the council members, that's why I like the fact, for example, Councilman Moody said he wants to talk about a second set of bathrooms in the downtown area. I support that, and we're going to look at that initiative and come to you next year with the proposal. But basically, he's told the people that have asked is that we'll look at it and we'll include it in our request for next year. Same thing with all of you. If there's something you want us to look at, we certainly will. With respect to the outline of work, real quick, the plan of work is more detailed in my budget message, so I'm just going to briefly touch on just a couple of things. The council made it very clear since I started is that communications and transparency will always be one of the top priorities that we have, and that is we always need an ongoing basis to do the very best job we can. You're going to hear some more about it from Krista right after this, is making sure the public knows how we spend our money, what we're spending our money on, and what's happening in City Hall. And that just takes time and it takes resources. And I think we're getting there. I think there's still a lot of things that we can do, and we should never rest on the successes that we have, because obviously we're not going to reach everybody. So we have to continue to do things in paper. We can't rely, for example, on social media because not everybody is on social media. The Focus newsletter. I got a comment today from a gentleman about the story in the Focus newsletter. Sometimes people are very happy, sometimes people don't agree, but I'm glad they're submitting their comments. So I know the paper is important as well. A couple few initiatives is that we are going to implement a city council highlight show. We're also going to be providing monthly updates on the various projects and what happens between council meetings. Council has agreed to start taking our meetings on a road show, to go quarterly, to go around the community and have an open house when we do so. And we are going to continue to increase our presence on social media. With regard to economic development, Street Safe Initiative is continuing. Water and sewer improvements, road improvements are coming to the downtown. We're going to be spending about $400,000 to $500,000 on doing a number of streets downtown. Some folks in town are having trouble riding their bikes downtown, and encouraged the mayor and me to get on our bikes and ride down with them to take a look at the streets. And so, you know, I have committed based on the pavement index report. There's a lot of streets, especially right off of Main Street, to where we've done the construction, the east and west. We need to get those taken care of. We had our second public meeting on the Rose District overlay for potential new residential construction. That's ongoing. The conference center is going to open in September, and the technical grant has been submitted by Norm Stevens for the new innovation district. Public infrastructure, once again, street improvements, honoring our commitment to complete the 2011 and 2014 bond projects. And once again, 2017 and 2018 are going to be the year of the park. What's happening in our parks. And some other decisions the council is going to have to make sometime this fiscal year is obviously I'm going to create a community service program. We have an informal program right now, but we're in a situation where we need help cleaning up our parks, the sides of our street, and I think there's a great opportunity here. Council wants more information on the new Center for the Creative Arts, and we're going to have to look at some technology initiatives for operations. And with respect to Bama, quickly, is that we have a number of water and sewer capital improvements from the Vergas River plant pre-treatment. Going to be expanding there to a new 2 to 3 million gallon water storage tank to improve our capacity and our pressure. Various wastewater system improvements on Lynn Lane, Hagee Creek. A lot of people don't realize is that we're in a partnership with a number of cities, and we have a major commitment to the Hagee Creek wastewater treatment plant with Tulsa, Bixby, and I believe several other communities. And we may be spending over the next 5 to 7 years safely, Mr. Schwab, $50 million approximately to upgrade that treatment plant. Okay. County line trunk sewer, that's a major project, so there's a lot of things that are happening in utilities. And then a couple of other considerations for the council to know is that council at the budget work session said that they've given the administration permission to begin the preparing the bond package for the summer of 2018 to go before the voters. And we're already starting that process, but what I'm excited about, and you'll hear Krista talk about it, is that we're gonna run some parallel paths. Staff has their idea about what we'd like to do. We want to gather the input from the community at the same time. So we're going to be running concurrent paths. So we're going to have the council's ideas, we're going to have the staff's ideas, and the public's ideas. We're going to meld all those together, and from there, probably, I would say sometime around March or April of next year, things will probably come into focus in terms of what we're going to put before the public. So it's going to be a real vetting process. Also is that this will be the first year we'll be able to use the street and road tax from the repurposed vision. And right now we're in the process of finalizing it because I'm not completely satisfied. I want one document the council can look at because we're completing bond projects and we're completing street projects. And so Mr. Schwab and his team are actually putting those two documents together in very simple form, and we're going to have those to you by the end of the week. But I can tell you is that right now it looks like we're going to be spending between street maintenance and bond projects probably around 27 or $28 million in actual road improvements and maintenance. So definitely that a new tax that we just started collection is going to be real helpful to us. Here's something that a couple council members mentioned. I want to make sure the public is aware, is that because of some cuts, we increased the funding for public transportation for Tulsa Transit from $216,000 to $320,000 to continue to provide the existing route that operates in Broken Arrow and to fund the express bus route service that operates each business day between Broken Arrow and Tulsa. This is the main form of transportation for a lot of folks in our community, and so we made a recommendation to you to increase that funding because they had to cut some funding to maintain that route because there's a lot of folks that ride that one route. There is two. There's one that's not as heavily used, so we're actually recommending to use this funding to cover this main route. Now, with respect to something that's important for everyone is to know is that in order to fund the projects and to pay for operations, the City Council had Black & Veatch last year put together a rate model for the next 5 years. And I wanted to point out is that tonight I'm just going to show Council, as I did previously, what we're looking at. And there'll be further discussion later this summer whenever we look at the manual of fees. The funds are needed for two things, is to support the debt service on $140 million worth of capital projects and to support what we believe are the costs for ongoing operations and personnel costs. Whatever council decides to do, should you decide to improve a rate increase, it would go into effect in November 2017, excuse me. According to their model, this year 2 of the implementation of the rate model calls for the water to increase by 5.5%, sewer by 7%, stormwater by 9%, and the street lighting fee from $1 to $1.50. Now, when we come before the council with the manual of fees, we will have all the information about what this will cost to the average user that may use X number of thousand gallons of water, and we'll provide all the comparisons to council to know exactly where we're going to be with those communities around us. And then finally, this is important, is just what are we going to be focused on in the coming years in terms of challenges or opportunities. Because we are so heavily latent on personnel costs, we continually have to be able to review operational expenses. That's important because if we're going to be able to continue to pay for all of our personnel costs, to provide cost of living step increases, to pay for health benefits and so forth, we need to make sure that we're monitoring our costs and justifying those expenditures. We have to continue lobbying our efforts to update our taxation model to support municipal operations. We're still the only state in the United States that relies so heavily upon sales tax. The next item is June 12th is the next meeting of the Citizens Recycling Committee. And at that meeting, I believe they're coming in the point where they're going to be looking at submitting their recommendations sometime later this summer to the City Council on implementing some type of curbside recycling program. So I'm excited that community has done yeoman's work, and I'm looking forward to, I'm sure as they are, to wrapping things up and putting in our hands. And as I mentioned to you before, and for the public, if they come to the council and make their presentation sometime in July or August, I recommend that you take it under advisement, and then we have a couple special work sessions where we look at it, and then you give council the direction on looking at the operational costs, and then we'll come back to you. And that implementation is not something that happens overnight. I mean, this is a very, very controversial topic within our community for a number of very good reasons. And so we want to make sure that we have a good, transparent, and vetting process throughout the entire decision-making process, because it'll probably be one of the most substantive changes in public policy this city has faced in many years, maybe decades. Long-term capital, BAMA capital improvement plan, and then finalize the downtown residential housing initiative. We're getting a lot of great feedback, according to Mr. Skates, from those people that are ready to make investments and the folks that live down there. So we're excited. The next step is to accumulate all the comments, and then it'll go to the Planning Commission. And then at that point, it'll come before you for discussion, review, and possible action. So with that, I need to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Caldwell and his leadership for this year's budget process. It was a very enjoyable process to understand how we spend our money and coming up with a solid plan. Mr. Cook, the entire finance staff, which I see at least one of them here today, all the department directors, our assistant city managers, and most importantly for the council for the time, the questions, and the commitment you've made to go through such a large spending plan.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from City Council? This is a public hearing. No one has signed up to speak, but I will ask 3 times. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on the budget? Is there anyone here that would like to speak on the budget? Is there anyone here that would like to speak on the budget? Seeing no one, I will declare this public hearing closed. And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation by Krista Flash, Director of Communications, on current and upcoming projects. Krista.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Krista Flash, Communications Director for the City of Broken Arrow. I'm here tonight to provide a brief overview on current communications efforts and talk about some of the upcoming projects that we're working on. As you know, the purpose of the Communications Department is to inform and educate the public. We also communicate with another important audience, and that is our city employees. I have the word news up there because I really think that's what the Public Information Office has evolved into, is we are creating a newsroom for the City of Broken Arrow. Under the direction of City Manager Michael Spurgeon, we are sharing more information than ever with the public. And while that's a time-consuming process, it's very important because we need to keep the public informed. And so part of that is adding the additional staffing to keep up with the higher level of transparency. About a year ago, we added a new position called a digital content specialist, and we were very fortunate to hire Mary McAtee, who's been putting out our video messages for us. She's doing a great job putting these messages together and helping keep the public informed. We have over 100 videos on YouTube right now on our YouTube channel, so she's been doing a great job. She's a hard worker, and we're just so pleased that she was able to join our staff. Later this year, we will be hiring a communications coordinator who will be assisting me with writing press releases, writing the focus newsletters, which are so important to our community now that we don't have a community newspaper, also helping out with other reports, writing the financial newsletter, and assisting with social media, which is also very time-consuming as well. All right, so how do we communicate? This is a very multifaceted answer for a relatively simple question. People these days are getting information from a myriad of different sources, compared to 20 years ago when you had the local newspaper and people watched the 6 p.m. news. Well, today, there are hundreds of television channels. We don't have a community newspaper anymore, unfortunately, and people are getting a lot of their news from Facebook. So the approach we are taking is we need to communicate using the same communications tools that people are using so we can reach them where they're at. Again, like I said, very time-consuming, but an important task that we do. So one of the ways we're communicating is through video. You can watch our videos on our government access channel, which is channel 24 for our Cox customers. If you don't have Cox Cable, you can still watch our videos. They're all posted on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/City of Broken Arrow. We're also on social media. This is where we spend a lot of time trying to reach people. We've been actively using Facebook for about the last 3 years. We're on Twitter. Like I said, we're on YouTube, and just 3 months ago, we joined Nextdoor. And we're really finding Nextdoor to be a very effective communications tool because I find that the people on there are very engaged in the community because they want to know what's going on. So we'll be utilizing Nextdoor more often in the coming months. And for those who are not active on social media or don't watch videos, we have other news sources for them. We have our website, brokenarrowok.gov, and the Focus newsletter, which is a print publication that is inserted with the utility bills every month. Our website is a great resource for people. I encourage everyone to visit the site on a regular basis because this is where you can read our news stories, the press releases, find out what events are going on in town. If you don't check the website often, you can still subscribe to receive email notifications when new stories do get posted, and sign up for robocalls. We're also using phone calls to get important information out to the community, like meetings that happen or important and major road construction projects that are going on in the community. And the website is where people can also report issues too, like the potholes they see or if there's a street light out in their neighborhood. It's actioncenterba.com. There's links to mobile apps that they can download. So a lot of great resources on our website. And yes, we still rely on local television news to get important information out to the public. I do write press releases on a regular basis. This is how I pitch stories to reporters, and they do a great job in covering a lot of the economic development that's happening here because there's so much to share, so many good things going on in our community. Any other questions before I move on to new projects? All right. We put this video together to preview a new video series that we're launching later this month. It's about project updates. I get so many questions about when is this project happening and what's the status of that project. So I think this is going to be a very helpful new video series that people will find beneficial. So if you want to go ahead and play that.
Hi folks, I'm Broken Arrow City Manager Michael Spurgeon. I'm here today to announce an exciting new video series that we're going to be starting next month. In our ongoing endeavor to provide the community with maximum transparency, last summer we launched the City Council Highlights segment. Access to the segments and the actual video from the meetings is meant to keep our community informed on the decisions and actions taken by our governing body. The feedback on what's happening at council meetings and BAMA meetings has been overwhelmingly positive. Notwithstanding, there is still so much that happens between city council meetings, and we've decided to create a video series about day-to-day activities so the community will learn more about what's happening. The new series is going to be called Broken Arrow in Motion, and will be a monthly update covering the major projects we're working on, including roads, utility infrastructure, parks, and many more endeavors. We want to make sure our community knows about the status of projects and other initiatives that are happening around town. Mainly want to make sure you understand how it can impact our neighborhoods and our commutes if it's a road project. The series will also provide follow-up on the decisions made by the City Council and the Utility Authority. So look for the first video segment in late June. Until then, I'm Broken Arrow City Manager Michael Spurgeon. Have a great Memorial Day, and I hope to see you around town this summer.
So that succinctly explains what this new series is going to be about, and I think it's going to be another cornerstone video project that we'll do, just becoming as important as the council highlights videos that we put together as well. Broken Arrow is no longer the bedroom community that it used to be. We have awesome destination attractions like the Rose District, Warren Theater, the Performing Arts Center, Bass Pro Shops. We know all of the great things that are going on in our community, but not everyone else in the region does. So we need to share our story. And so what we've done is produced a series of videos with an emphasis on getting people to stay in Broken Arrow, eat at our restaurants, shop at our stores. The tourism asset inventory that was completed earlier this year really helped us guide the messaging of the tourism and marketing videos that we're putting together. These will be coming out sometime in August, so we're really excited about them coming out and sharing it with our partner organizations to really get the word out. Another important project coming up soon is the upcoming GO bond election that will happen next year. We're taking a different approach than we have in years past in that, as Mr. Spurgeon mentioned, we are going to maximize public input. So we really want to give the community more opportunities to share their ideas and provide their input on which projects are most important to them. So we'll start this process sometime in August. That'll give us a good year to really gather a lot of input and then later educate the public about the proposed projects. And this is a new project that will directly impact the governing body. It's a new counselor highlights or profile video. And this is just a question and answer format video series where I'll be asking you all a set of questions. And it's just an open mic opportunity to share with the public what your vision and hopes and dreams are for the community. And this we'll start recording this sometime in August. I know this is not a new project, but it is a brand-new initiative that we started last year, a very important one, in which we're really increasing the level of transparency to the community. So I wanted to let you know that we're working on this right now. We are going to be providing a status update on all of the projects that were listed in the 2017 report. So in the 2018 report, we'll provide updates on last year's projects, and then also list the new projects that we'll be working on for the upcoming year. And in closing, want to reiterate again, just the website is hub central for the communications department. This gives people 24/7 access to City Hall because you can find jobs online, you can pay your bills, you can find nearby parks to take your kids to. And again, just a great way for us to be transparent with the community. Many of the documents that you receive for council meetings, they're found as attachments on the city website. So I encourage people to go to the website, check it out. We've got all kinds of budget information. We started a new platform called OpenGov, which the finance department spent a lot of time putting together. And it gives people an opportunity just to drill down on all of the department's expenses and see how we operate. And with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions or comments?
I have a question, Krista. We lost our newspaper.
Yes.
How do you view that from your perspective of how the city's going to be involved now and how we're going to make sure, I know everything that you've mentioned, are you going to be able to pick up the slack that people are going to miss from reading in the newspaper?
You know, local newspapers, I have a journalism background, so I know the importance of having that local voice who is there to really inform the public of actions that its local government takes. So yes, absolutely, we will be picking up the slack. We're looking at opportunities to expand the Focus newsletter. In fact, that's why this next hire is so important for us, because they're going to be doing more work in writing more in-depth articles about our services and just all the actions that are being taken to make our community better.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I was going to make a comment or two, but she covered it all. Great job, Kristen.
All right.
Good job.
Well, thank you for your time. I really
Pretty good, we
appreciate
can
it.
cover everything Michael wants to say.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I would point out she is the communications
That's
director.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 8 is citizens' opportunity to address the council on general topics related to city business or services. We had one person sign up, Pat Conrad. Pat, would you like to come up?
I am Pat Conrad, and I've lived at 617 South 6th Street for 43 years. My problem is the intersection at South 6th Street and Houston Drive. I've taken some pictures. This was taken after the rain had stopped at 7 o'clock on the 19th. And we have no drain under our street. There's no place for the water to really go. The sides of the street, the sides on 81st are higher than the ground. And so it makes quite a problem for us. And whether we're driving or you can see if this water was frozen, how dangerous that would be coming up to that intersection to stop when there's that much water on it. And when the snow melts and then it refreezes, we do have that much water. Then these pictures were taken on the 20th at 7 p.m., 36 hours after the rain stopped, and we still have that much water accumulated. As I said, there's no drain. The other streets on down have drains, but we have never had a drain. Do I need anything else? Do I need to ask if you have questions about my pictures? This is only the second time in 55 years that I've come to the city council with a problem, so I'm not a speaker.
You did a pretty good job.
Yeah, good. Yeah, thank you.
That would be
Good
the
job.
main walking sidewalk for students that attend the
Well,
school,
we
is
really
that right?
don't have a lot of students anymore, with Haskell being the academy. We have some people that park on Sixth Street and then walk, but not many. They have a big parking lot.
Is this, are we the first folks you've visited with about this, or have you contacted the city
Yes,
engineering department?
years ago, I talked with somebody that was just out there doing stuff, and he said, well, we're going to improve the intersection at 81st and Lynn Lane. And I thought that maybe they were talking about putting another lane down to like 6th Street, and then that would improve our intersection. They didn't do that. All they did was put a turning lane up at Lynn Lane.
Well, go ahead, Mayor.
We can't take any action tonight, but we'll put this, city manager will address this issue.
Well, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for coming. I mean, this
Yes,
is clearly not.
thank you for letting me
it's-
come.
It's, well, one second, let me just let you know. Let me ask you to talk to Kenny Schwab, our Assistant City Manager of Operations, and then we can come out because, I mean, obviously, we need to do something about this.
Oh,
So
thank
I was not aware of it, being relatively new, but sometimes we have these situations, the large amounts of rain, it tells us where we're vulnerable. So let's get your name, and then Mr. Schwab can come out and take a look at it, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, item 9, general council business. 9A, consideration, discussion, possible approval of and authorization to execute a waiver of conflict of interest between McAfee and Taft and the city of Broken Arrow. Beth Ann?
Yes, sir. The law firm of McAfee and Taft has represented the city of Broken Arrow for a number of years in a variety of forms. Millennium, the entity that is interested in, Milestone Capital, the entity that's interested in entering into a contract with the city of Broken Arrow and the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority for the former church property. They would like to be able to utilize McAfee Taft as well. Their attorney, or the one that they had contacted, Mr. Allen, he prepared a formal waiver and conflict of interest. I made a few revisions to it just so that there wouldn't be any misunderstandings. And I did receive an email back from him today, and Milestone is agreeable to those limitations. One thing that I will advise the council is that McAfee did tell me that in the event of any sort of disagreement with regard to the terms of the agreement, they will not be willing to represent the city of Broken Arrow or the other party. I don't necessarily see that as a problem because there are a number of law firms that we do have the ability to use, and I feel comfortable having them represent the other party in this particular case, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we would request that you approve the waiver of conflict of interest and authorize its execution.
Any questions of Beth Ann?
I presume that you or another firm is handling the negotiations of the contract. We're not using the same firm to negotiate both sides of this agreement.
That's correct. I'll be handling the negotiations,
Okay.
unless asked not to. At least I'm planning on doing it.
Well, I would assume that, but that was the only
But
thing that popped
that
in
can
my
change.
mind, is if the
Yeah.
same firm is, other than that, okay.
Make a motion to approve the waiver of conflict of interest and authorize its execution.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Wimpy?
Yes.
Parks?
Yes.
Lester?
Yes.
Foodie?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes. Item 9B, consideration, discussion, possible approval of and authorization to execute a master lease agreement between New Singer Wireless PCS LLC and the city of Broken Arrow. Beth Ann?
Back in February, staff began the process of negotiation with AT&T, or Singular Wireless, which is the company that they actually utilize for this, for provision of 5G service. And in order to do that, we had to basically rewrite the zoning code and also enter into a master lease. AT&T had provided us with a draft agreement, and I had recommended that the city manager execute an agreement with a firm out of Minnesota that actually specializes in this. Some people may say, why Minnesota? And the reason for that is because that firm had represented the city of Oklahoma City. What I can tell you is we've gone back and forth with various drafts. I've checked my email all day today, hoping that we might have it ready for the council's approval tonight. They have not gotten back with us on it, so I would respectfully request that you table this to June 15th. My expectation is that we'll be ready to go at that time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Make a motion to table the matter to the June 15th meeting.
Second?
Motion second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes. Item 9C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the reappointment of Rob Whitlock to the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors.
Good
Norm.
evening, Mayor and council members. Norm Stevens, Economic Development Coordinator for the City of Broken Arrow. Article 2 of the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation bylaws states that the corporation shall consist of 9 directors, 3 of whom shall be representatives of and selected by and from the following entities: the Broken Arrow City Council, the Broken Arrow Board of Education, and the Broken Arrow Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee. Nomination of directors shall be made collaborative by the Broken Arrow City Manager, the Broken Arrow Public School Superintendent, and the President of the Chamber of Commerce, and then submitted to the respective boards. Mr. Rob Whitlock is a resident of Broken Arrow and is a well-recognized business person and community leader. He has served the board well and is willing to continue his service to the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors for a term beginning June 1st, 2017 and expiring May 31st of 2020. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Norm?
I make a motion to approve the reappointment of Mr. Rob Whitlock to the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors for a 3-year term.
Second?
Motion second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes. Item 9D, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the reappointment of Scott Wise to the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors.
Mr. Scott Wise is the CEO of Armada Consulting, which is a management consultant with over 20 years' experience developing and implementing a wide range of innovative business analytical solutions. Mr. Wise is willing to continue his service for the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors for a term beginning June 1st, 2017 and expiring May 31st of 2020. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Make a motion to approve the reappointment of Mr. Scott Wise to the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors for a 3-year term beginning June 1st, 2017, expiring May 31st, 2020.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi,
Abstain.
Thurman.
Yes. Item 10, preview ordinances, consideration, discussion, and possible preview of an ordinance amending Chapter 22, taxation. Beth Ann?
Yes, sir. We had a revision to a state statute which allows an increase in the cost for wireless fees from 50 cents to 75 cents. This particular ordinance makes provisions for that. We would request that you preview the ordinance and set it for adoption at the next meeting.
Any questions of Beth Ann?
Make a motion to preview the ordinance and set for adoption at the next meeting.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes. There are no ordinances. Item 12, remarks and inquiries by governing body members. Any remarks or inquiries?
I have an observation to make on gets back to the budget and all the city staff here. Wasn't a lot of comments made. We have spent a lot of time looking at it. I know the city manager spent a tremendous amount of time preparing it, and staff did a great job in their part of the presentation to the city manager of what their needs were. And we've looked at it, we've met in other meetings, open meetings for the budget. My comment would be that from our perspective, and from my perspective as a councilman, the 2 main jobs of a city councilman is, one is to provide a manager for the day-to-day operation of the city. and I think we've done the council has done a tremendous job in that. I don't like to brag on myself, but I think we've done a great job with that. I really appreciate the time and effort that he spent on the budget. The second thing, and nearly as equal, is approving of the budget. We listen to the citizens. We talk to the citizens. We know the priorities of the what they feel like the city needs to do, and that's one of the ways that we implement that is through the budget, through our input of the budget. We're going to spend this many millions of dollars here. We need to improve the sewer system so it doesn't smell like it bothers people. So we look at all of that, and all that's put into the budget. So just because we went through it after the city manager did a great job without a lot of questions doesn't mean that we don't appreciate your time and effort. And it, along with the keeping a good city manager, is our primary jobs. And so I want to thank you all for the job well done, and the city manager for a job well done.
I was going to speak. Friday, I think you guys might have heard about a new leaf getting vandalized, and I was just going to give an update. One of the stores in Broken Arrow, Vintage Phoenix, set up a GoFundMe page, and as of right now, they've already raised $12,000 to give back. And I'm not sure what the direct donations were, but I just wanted to let you guys know, like, what an amazing community we have that came together so quickly and gathered that much funds. And I know there were other, like, nurseries that came in and donated plants and flowers and stuff for them to sell. And I think what I was told is they sold out on Saturday, everything that they had. So I just wanted to bring that to attention, so.
That's awesome.
Oh, and then I also met with the fire department this week and met a lot of the cadets. And although I was given the opportunity to be thrown out of a window and rescued by them, I opted not to. I went ahead and walked down the 5 flights of stairs. So, but it was great getting to meet those guys.
Cool.
I think it is the New Leaf issue is one that I'm appalled that anyone in this community would be so brazen and so pathetic that they would feel the need to do something like that. But I'm also so heartened at the number of people who are contributing with both their pocketbooks and as Councilor Wimpy said, I believe there were nurseries from all over, but the people in Broken Arrow come together and help their own, and I think it's something that you're right to point out, and it's positive. I also want to make a point because I know that the city manager mentioned this, but I think it's pretty remarkable when you stop and think of it, and I want to commend our fire chief for the work he's done on getting that SAFER grant. The SAFER grants that allowed us to be well advanced in getting these firefighters to keep us safe, and good job, Chief. I'm also very pleased to see that we are continuing to invest in public transportation. I was very concerned when I heard that the Metropolitan Transportation Authority was going to be cutting our routes, and honestly, there's people, especially in our senior citizen population, but in the general population, that's their one source of employment or getting to their doctors or what have you. And I'm pleased that I live in a community that's willing to step up and help those who need that help. So thanks for making sure that made it into the budget.
And I do agree, and I think that Councilor Wimpy and Vice Mayor Udi are correct on the horrible thing that happened to New Leaf, and it is something to see our community step up and do so much. That's really important. Also, with the SAFER grants, and last year we had COPS grants that Chief Boggs got that helped us with funding. Do appreciate those efforts, and the fire department's always willing to throw any of the members of council out a window. So we all get that opportunity, I think. So and again,
I haven't even done anything yet to get that.
But I will point out that all the counselors went through, the police department got sprayed by mace, so that's coming.
yeah.
Is that tomorrow?
Just want you to be prepared for that.
Fantastic.
And I do thank all the work that everyone did on the budget. With that, no other comments. I'll move on to item 13, remarks and updates by city manager. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor Mishkow. Just one thing I wanted to point out is that in last month's utility bill and in this month's utility bill, there is a story on economic development, and there is a story this month on traffic signal and traffic light management. And I wanted to mention those because there are two very detailed stories about two issues that we all have gotten lots of questions about recently. And so, trying to be proactive, I just wanted to mention to folks that may be watching this is that there's two really good stories, and one of them is a precursor to the meeting we'll have later this summer regarding economic development in South Broken Arrow. But just wanted to mention that. That's all I have. And to reiterate once again, my appreciation for all the hard work everyone did on the budget. Thank you.
We do have a executive session, so I would entertain a motion for a recess so we can go into Bama and Beta.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. Roll call, please.
Wimpy?
Yes.
Parks?
Yes.
Lester?
Yes.
Udi?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes. I'll call the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Wimpy?
Here.
Parks?
Here.
Lester?
Here.
Udi?
Here.
Thurman?
Here. First item is consideration of consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed?
Move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Wimpy?
Yes.
Parks?
Yes.
Lester?
Yes.
Udi?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes. There are no public hearings, appeals, or presentations. Item 6, we have general authority business, consideration, discussion, and possible approval to execute Routeware master sales and license agreement with Routeware, Inc. Lee Zirk.
Good evening, Chairman, Authority members, Lee Zirk, General Services Director. This item here is a seek approval to purchase a routing and navigation system to improve our sanitation route planning and manage some of our refuse service information, and also utilize GPS and route navigation among our division. Now, you may be aware that our sanitation department for many years has done an awesome job just with the knowledge that they have as they operate their routes for many years. But when we put a tool like this at their fingertips to give them the information and the power, we're going to expect to see lots of increase in efficiency and also set them up for success as the department potentially expands its services in the future to include recycling. So this is a very important item. Now, the department had requested proposals from 12 vendors out there, and we received 2 proposals back, both of them very good, and staff is recommending that we go with a low proposal from Routeware. Now, in the fact sheet, there's a lot of benefits and things that I'm not going to regurgitate to you here, but I did put together a short PowerPoint presentation to give you some idea what this route software is going to look like, feel, and so you have some idea of what we're looking at for our sanitation department. So if you could pull that up real quick, and I'll go through the slides. With help of Routeware, I got some pictures and images and some of their logo here for this presentation. So in this presentation real quickly, and if I go too fast or you see something you want some more information on, please stop me and I'll clarify it for you. I'll talk a little bit about Routeware, the company that was the low bidder. I'll talk about real quickly some of the main features of equipment, some equipment photos, some onboard computer shots, what the control center is going to look like, some of the tools and reporting, and what the benefits of are using a route software for our division. So Routeware has been in business for 18 years, and their primary expertise is with the waste hauling industry. And up there you can see a number of companies that they have done business with. And if you notice up there, there's New Solutions, which is the contractor that works actually for the city of Tulsa. And we actually got to go down and witness the software in use. And we also visited with a lot of their suppliers that are already using their product and got a lot of good feedback. So we're confident that the product will work as advertised. They're headquartered in Portland, Oregon. They have thousands of trucks. Some of the larger municipalities that use their software, Chicago, Denver, San Francisco, and it's also an American-made product as well. Some of the main features of this software is, starting at the upper left, pictures. Although we're not using video at this time, it is video capable, so as our drivers go down and see something unusual that needs to be documented, they can take a photo snapshot of it. It'll be available immediately over in the back office software. Truck and monitoring alerts to give the managers some visibility about what's happening with their trucks. They can look at idle time, how far they're, whether or not, how fast they're going, and a whole number of features that allow the manager to see what his drivers are doing out there. For the drivers on the lower left, it's mapping and turn-by-turn directions of the route that they're on, and of course, very importantly, is managing routes so that we can balance them, and the supervision and management can make sure that each route is properly fitted for the type of housing that it's picking up. Now, this is kind of what the equipment looks like. Up there, you'll see a Windows tablet that'll be mounted in the cab. There is the mount that will go in the truck. And of course, the camera, which is not pictured, will also be mounted in a truck and tied into the system. And in the future, if we need any radio frequency ID, that is an option that can be easily added depending on what our needs are for the future. There's a quick shot. You can see the pad sitting there in the driver's truck, and the driver's interfacing with it. As you can see right here, that it allows the back office or the managers to send a driver instant messages. That way they can look at that and see it as they get to an address, or if we have any particulars about a service address, they can have that right at their fingertips and can provide even better customer service. There's a screen that you'll see the driver will be looking at. You can see there's a done and a skip. It allows the driver to document when we picked up that house, whether we skipped it or whether the trash wasn't out. There's a lot of things that the driver can instantly input and is available to our customer service people back in the office there. Here, a driver can also look at a screen as where his pickups are by street. Of course, he can zoom in and zoom out, and what this particular picture shows is the dots in black are the homes that haven't been picked up. When they service the house, it will turn green. If they mark it as skipped or trash wasn't out, it turns red. And then, of course, as they complete the routes, the driver can look at a further out shot and make sure that he hasn't missed any homes or anything like that along the way. Additionally, a benefit of route software is that we can put in our special charges for extra pickups, things of that nature. The driver can input in manually, and it'll automatically go into our customer service and billing section so that we can properly bill the customers, and we can eliminate all the paperwork and potential input errors going forward. Here's just a sample of a snapshot of what a driver might take. Here you can see the picture in the upper left. He took a picture of some extra refuse that were set out that they might want to bill for. And there's an example of going by the house where there was no trash set out when they went by. And of course, that picture is immediately available, and later on, if the customer happens to call in and said, hey, you missed my trash, we can actually send them the video and say, well, we came by at 8:15 this morning, and here's proof you didn't set it out. So it helps eliminate the doubt about what our crews are doing, and helps protect them. Back in the control center where the supervisor and management work, you can see there's many different tabs and tools that are available. The picture up here happens to be a breadcrumb trail. If he wanted to see how that driver drove his route, it can record all the actions within that truck and help management make sure that they can keep their drivers and improve the efficiency of their drivers. Here's another one about, this one happens to be for idle events. One of many items that is available on the software, but this one here monitors all the idle time on your trucks and gives management and supervision some idea of what's happening in your trucks, and they can work to improve those items, either to shorten the time or increase whatever the necessity may be to keep efficiency high. And then, of course, it has over 1,000 reports, but a couple samples here is the trend in idle time and trucks, the total speed events, how fast the trucks are going, and, of course, distance in miles. So there's a whole list of reports. We have no idea what's going to be useful to us, but, you know, we will figure out what those are and run the reports as necessary. So some of the benefits gained by using the route software is assisting drivers and crews in maximizing their route efficiency. It's very beneficial to improve both new and seasoned drivers because they'll have real-time information at their fingertips, particularly for a new driver that's not familiar. He can just follow turn-by-turn instructions Or even if it's a person that's covering a route that's not normally theirs, they don't have to learn every single time they take the route over. It helps verify our services, whether we pick up a house, skip a house, extra charges, and number of trips to the landfill. It gives great visibility to the managers to see where every one of their trucks at and where they're going and what they're doing. And also, because we're electronically gathering data instead of on paper, there's a lot more data that's available to help us improve our organizational functions going forward. And of course, another great thing is that it is a GPS software, and it can be applied to other services as well if it needed to be expanded, such as snow plowing services or anything like that. Any department that may be interested, they can certainly look to see if this is something that can benefit them or not. So just to recap, as far as the department is concerned, we expect that it will get a much higher employee productivity and efficiency. For our drivers, it's going to make the routes easier to run and reduces the learning curve of new drivers. For our dispatcher back in the office, it gives them more control and awareness of where the drivers and routes are at, and also helps them create helper routes. In the event a truck goes down, routes can be easily shifted from one truck to another and divided up to make sure that none of our customers are missed. It will greatly improve the documentation of our service, provide us faster starts in the day, and give us actionable data to help coach drivers along to keep them efficient as they go. As far as the technologies that use, it's very familiar with our ID department using Windows-based platform. It's very easy to deploy. And of course, we'll have pictures and GPS tracking to help defend our division in the event there's a discrepancy about what service we provide. And it'll also keep our customer service level at high levels and document all of our activities. So with that, I'll see if you have any questions and be happy to answer anything you have.
So the skip really means there was nothing there?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so did I hear you say you will take pictures of those houses, or?
Well, I think initially, as the division manager and I discussed, we already know a lot of the customers that have a tendency to call in and say we miss. Although we could take a picture of every house that doesn't have that, we would primarily take pictures of the ones that we know are problems. Okay. And if they become a problem, then we'll take pictures. Otherwise, probably not. We'll just mark it as trash not out. And if it becomes a problem, then we'll start documenting it so that we can defend ourselves.
And you guys currently do daily reports, paper reports,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's all on paper, and it's not in an electronic format.
I saw that paper when I met with you guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Handwritten report, yeah.
Would you anticipate this will cause you to do new routes than what you're doing right now, or just refine on what you're doing?
Well, right now, or in the past, our department has used a team-based approach to collecting routes. So they would have several trucks working through an area. Right now, in preparation for this, we have redivided all the routes and had individual routes for each of the trucks. And so they're getting themselves prepared to take on their own separate areas and move forward in that direction. Now, if we happen to offer other services in the future, this is all going to change, and having this tool at our fingertips is going to make the transition much easier in setting up new routes and adding recycling routes or anything else that we may want to add into the future.
And you can add if you picked up bulk or had to send a grapple truck or those kind of things.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's all part of the routing software.
I mean, to me, the bottom line is, will this make Mr. Cade and his, the fellows who work in his department, will it make their jobs easier?
Well, I
Or
think
at least
initially
yeah.
it'll be a little tougher for them, but in the end, it's going to make them better.
Because
it's going to give them such a powerful tool. But like anything, there's going to be a learning curve, and we want to get this project off and going now so that in the future, whatever changes we have, we're ready to take them on and run with it.
So the experience has been that the equipment is durable enough working within that environment of the trucks that it withstands all the rigor of...
Yes, absolutely. The proposal requested military grade, high
Tough
ruggedness, toughness, tough books for that
And
application.
the warranty on the equipment and the software and everything is for how long?
Yeah, that is all included, the service and repair is included in the monthly service fees.
For how long?
The initial term of the contract is going to be for 3 years, and then we can renew it annually thereafter.
So it's all inclusive?
Yes, sir. Even the IT support, troubleshooting, all those things is all tied into this agreement.
So this one price is for a 3-year period, or is that an annual fee?
There is, the price here that you said is to purchase the equipment and get it installed, and then there'll be monthly ongoing fees for license, support, and things of that nature to keep the,
That's the
Equipment running.
$3,215 a month.
Yeah, 20,
So what if one of these computers gets damaged? I mean, is that something we're going to pay for? Is that included in the?
well, it's a tablet, so the tablet in of itself is not very expensive. What is expensive is the software that's running it and the design that goes behind it, which will be cloud-based. And so the manufacturer is responsible for the maintenance of all that. Now, as far as the tablet is concerned, there is a limited life, and we know that at some point in the future, they're going to break down and have to be replaced, but it is just a tablet.
but it's in a pretty, look like a pretty substantial.
It's in a ruggedized case, yes. Now, you know, if we break it, drop it, and damage it ourselves, of course, we're gonna need to replace that. But we'll be outfitting every truck, all 14 routes, plus the 2 bulky waste trucks, and we will also have our spare trucks outfitted with that as well, so.
This is great, Lee.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Any more
Appreciate you
questions?
and Bill's support.
Yes, thank you very much. Any other
Any
questions?
questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank
Make a
you.
motion to approve the agreement between the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority and Rootware Incorporated for the routing and navigation system, hardware, software, and support services, and authorize its execution.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes. We have no executive session. Need one more motion?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes. I'll call the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Here.
Lester,
Here.
Udi,
Here.
Thurman.
Here. We
Yes,
have a
okay.
consideration of consent agenda. Any items to be removed?
Move approval of consent agenda?
Second.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes. There's no general authority business and no executive session.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion second, roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes. We are back in regular session. We do have an executive session, so I'd entertain a motion for a brief recess to clear the room.
So moved.
Second?
Motion second, roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes.